Priorities abundantly clear? All right, please, Beth.
Could you elaborate on flexible transit options?
Do you need this?
Yeah, my question.
My name is George, and flexible means that you have more than one. What we're looking at is a means to get from the suburban area to your points downtown or across town to another suburban area. And the flexibility would be the most feasible means of transportation to get there, whether it's light rail, bus, or whatever. Yeah, that would be what's.
What I was getting at was that the flexibility means using things that can be moved as the communities change. So that if you have buses, the buses can be rerouted. If you're using Uber can go where it needs to go. If you have something that's not fixed, you can move it to go with the changing needs of the community. That's what I was after.
All right, thank you, Team 1. Team 2, who is your spokesperson? Oh, Team 3. Team 3. Russell. He did double duty too, keyboard and
Well, I apologize, everyone. I regret that I don't seem to have 3 items up there. So our first option, in spite of the fact that we actually didn't come up with this one first, is actually trains. In spite of the fact that we know that there are issues with expense, it just seems like really the best way to go. Reversible lanes we really liked because of the way that it seemed to be reasonably successful, although in spite of the fact that it's also slightly underutilized on the Crosstown Expressway. But at least it's not the larger footprint of 2 sets of lanes that go in both directions, you know what I mean? So that's kind of it.
Let's hear it for Team 3. Any clarifications or questions for Team 3 on their 2 items? Yes, Warren?
We did have one that didn't make it, just a last minute crush, and it was no left turns across oncoming traffic. You would turn right and either go around a built circle to make them to go to the left, or you're talking about just going around an extra block.
Okay.
But it would help to reduce traffic accidents and the tie-ups on roadways. Is just a way of clearing the roads so that traffic can pass without having to spend a lot more money on highways.
So that one is a top idea too, no left turns across lanes.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll add that one in real time, no left turns across lanes. Thank you. And I'll invite Team 5. Who is your appointed spokesperson? Please, and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Tyler. I am a USF student and also part-time transportation planner and resident of Forest Hills. For our top 3, we had first mile, last mile connections. Because a problem, especially in newer developed areas, is that there's an arterial, and then, even if there's a bus line on it, that your house might be a mile away from the arterial because the residential areas are, it's buried so deep away from the road. So connections to get more people onto the main lines. Also important to me, because I'm a student, is USF connectivity and walkability. I've also been a student at UF, and there's quite a bit of difference between the campuses as far as commuting to campus or walking around campus, because USF is currently wrapped by 3 high-speed roads, which make it very hard for people who want to walk. And there's 40,000 students, which has quite an impact on traffic. So important. And I don't think it was put under our name, but we have the same thing with reversible lanes, because there's quite a lot of directional traffic, especially on I-275 north of Tampa. One side of the interstate would be empty and the other one's backed up, which would be a way to increase capacity without increasing the footprint of the interstate.
Any clarifications needed for Team 5's 3 ideas? Any further clarifications? All right, well, PJ has opened the polls, and we'd like to ask each of you to get your polling device. Does anybody else need a polling device? If so, raise your hand and we'll bring one to you. Please select the top 3 priorities in order of priority. So the one that you think is of premier importance, click that number first. So you want to press that number. Watch your keypad as you press numbers to make sure it's flickering green light. And then you'll press your second priority, which is weighted a little differently, and then your third priority. So it's kind of a weighted approach. Yes, please.
I have one more clarification. Number 1, what does it mean allocating funds to sidewalks and roads? I understand building sidewalks, but is it to allocate funds to repair roads? Is that fair?
Team 1 was the allocation to repair roads, or did you have any other clarifications for allocating
Well, we remember
funds?
it was about neighborhoods that actually need it. There was an emphasis about where the funds were applied, but it wasn't.
Basically allocating funds, the example I used is, I've lived over in like the New Tampa area for the past 15 years. Bruce B. Downs has been under construction all 15 years, basically. And really, okay, yes, there is a lot of traffic and stuff, but I mean, it's not terrible roads. However, I work here in the university area, and there's roads and there's no sidewalks, there's roads that need repair. And I feel like for a community that's pretty wealthy up in Newer Tampa, to have all those funds and allocations when there's people in this area who need to walk and bike to places and it's not safe for them to be out there, there's a disconnect for me. And again, I'm not a transportation guru by any means, I am just a resident of the community here. So that's really what I meant by that, just really allocating the funds to the communities that really need it.
Appreciate
So
that.
allocating funds to build sidewalks and then to distribute funds to areas in need
Yes.
without the tax base.
I've never said no tax base.
Right, I mean, but is that the reason why there's not funds in certain areas as opposed to other areas because of tax base? I'm just asking.
I don't know.
I don't
I'm not a
know.
transportation.
Well, we're staying broad at this point, and just getting your top 3 priorities in order of
Right, it's just a
priority.
question, I mean, I don't know, as she is, I'm not a transportation guru either.
Well, she has addressed it according to what she
Yeah, and I mean, that
put
was
forward.
part of my questioning was how does that work? Like who makes those decisions of what funds go where? So that was just, again, we were asked to put broad ideas. That was my thing.
Yes.
If you live in many of the new planned communities and you are an owner in them, you pay for the roads, you pay for the sidewalks, and you pay for the street lights. And the older communities, many of which have been there for 100 years or less, it's up to the local government of competent jurisdiction to do something about sidewalks and street lights and so on. So when you go into Tampa Commons, or bond issues and so on that pay for those roads, not only the sidewalks, but the roads, the parks, and everything. And then those roads were dedicated, technical term for I gave it to a government, to the city of Tampa in that case. True with Hunter's Green, true with K-Bar, Arbor Green, on and on. The sidewalks and the bond issues are paid off by the residents, not the tax base. Poor prunes like me, yeah. So your need that you express is a definite need for a lot of areas. That's correct, it would come out of the tax base.
Thank you for that. And for those of you who have already registered your top 3 priorities, if you want to have a do-over, I saw a couple say, yeah, I pressed the wrong numbers. The last 3 ones that you press are the ones that kind of make the final count. So if you press wrong numbers, if you press right numbers, you're good to go. So just make sure that, sure you can, yep. Just make sure that you see that green flicker of light each time you press, and then you'll be good to go. And we'll give you another couple of moments to weigh in. The good news about this is just a pulse in the room. Everything that you recorded in your workstations, it's captured for the real-time record. Nothing gets lost. Everything will be resident in those real-time records, as well as all of these priorities. So we'll close the polls in 3, 2, 1. Okay, it looks like there's a lot of energy around all of them. It looks like number 4 came in at 21%. Connecting transportation hubs of Tampa Bay with affordable transit option, with flexible transit options, okay? And then number 1, 20%, allocating funds to sidewalks and roads, neighborhoods that actually need it, keeping people as the focus of the transportation system. And then it looks like number 6 came in with 18%, trains, trains, trains. Those are this particular group's top 3. So let's move down to how best can we organize, and I'll invite Team 1, your spokesperson. Chris, are you up again, or is there another? You guys kind of share the, how best should we organize?
So we decided that more frequent meetings were needed. Once a month would probably be good, and have them be more subject matter specific. So less broad-based and more like getting into one subject and getting real into it. The other one should that an FDOT decision maker should always be present. So someone that can actually make a decision about how these plans are going to be implemented in the future. And lastly, is like the field trips throughout the communities and more diverse meeting times and virtual options for meetings.
Let's hear for Team 1. Thank you. Good work. Team 2, who was your spokesperson? That's right, Russell.
Well, in the spirit of consensus, we decided to do what Team 1 decided to do. Just kind of, but we are actually going to do what Team 1 because part of it we didn't quite know what we would be meeting about exactly. So we needed some time to kind of figure out what the plan was going forward. So that was part of it too.
Let's hear for Team 3. All right, Team 5. Who can speak to yours?
Eric, that will be good. We need something to react to from FDOT, so I guess that's probably something that's going to happen as the meetings go forward, but right now it feels very vague. So talking about specific plans and the details of those, and the second one, making distribute agenda ahead of time. I came to this and I wasn't really sure exactly what the meeting was. So have an agenda so people can kind of come prepared, do their homework and everything. And interactive mapping activities is just something to get people more engaged in the meetings, maybe. See where are the needs, where are people going, and what kind of routes do they take, and that's it.
Let's hear for Team 5. All right, let's take a poll in the room. Now that you know how to use the polling devices, please select your top 3 in order of priority. Watch your keypad as you press the numbers. Finished, you can just leave them on the chairs, we'll collect them. They don't do anything else useful, unfortunately, in this world. But they did something useful tonight. No, it doesn't work. I tried that. All right, we will close the polls in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so it looks like definitely number 1, meet once a month, have them subject matter specific. Not big picture. Then number 2, we need something to react to from FDOT. What is feasible? What are the plans? And then it looks like number 3 came in at 17%. Make and distribute agenda ahead of the meetings. So thank you for this. This will help us moving forward to be able to organize well so that you can do your best work. I'd like to open it up now. Are there any public comments? Maddie or Lori, anybody has written any specific public comments? We have a few moments if there are any either comments or questions remaining before we send you off on your way this evening. Yes? Okay, Charlotte, and then you, and then George. And we'll give you up to 2 minutes each if you need that.
Oh, okay. The meetings are as the teams choose, right? They wouldn't be, you have to go to this meeting here once a month.
You would be in charge
Okay.
of where you want to dedicate.
Okay, and would there be any time to present any information to the big group that some of us may have on issues dealing with transportation?
Well, again, you all can help us to organize what's most meaningful. So if you want to have time to present to the group, you can build that in as
Okay.
an option, and then the group can decide if that's the best way to
There
do it.
will be more group meetings, I'm presuming?
Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tom. And Robert.
Robert Tager. The question is, why are our lights not synchronized? You drive, you get a green light, you get to the next one, and it's red, and you stop. You finally get a green, you go, and it's the next one is red. Everybody's smiling, but it's enough. It is not that hard to synchronize. Traffic that travels west is synchronized from the east heading west. Traffic that goes north to south is the same. We burn gas that doesn't need to be burned, we cause accidents that don't need to be caused. It needs to be fixed. My second issue is, why is it when we come in from Pinellas, the Pinellas side of the Harold Franklin, they expanded the entranceway onto the highway, so there's 5 or 6 lanes coming on, and as soon as you hit here in Tampa to get off of the highway, it merges into 2 lanes, with 2 lanes on the right, one going into Kennedy, the other one going up to 275. We should have another lane, one of the 3 lanes, so the number of lanes coming off the bridge, all 5 of them have 5 lanes to continue to travel down, rather than merging into 2 lanes. And I would like to know, I mean, this is my first time at this meeting, so I don't know if any of you all have juice or who it is here that's in authority, but why is this not being done? We're talking about public transportation, spending billions and billions of dollars so people get from A to B quickly, inexpensively, without burning up, the environment with fuel. Why not fix what we have by synchronizing the lights and put on the same amount of lanes coming off a bridge that you have going on a bridge? That's all. Thanks.
Kirk, go ahead, you're more the traffic engineer.
I'm not a traffic engineer, but I can answer with the progressions, with the traffic light signals. There's a quagmire that each direction wants that synchronized, and you have to work with both directions to get it synchronized. And we are working with our local partners, Hillsborough County and the City of Tampa, to try and get those signals synchronized, at least on the same line. And so we're working towards that goal.
You do the northbound, and then you synchronize the southbound, and they should be in sync because they're both traveling the same direction at the same time.
But there's going to be conflict there because where do you meet? And so, but we're working on those things and with our traffic engineers. As far as the Howard Franklin Bridge, this is what the study is about. The supplemental EIS is to try and get that bottleneck fixed there at State Road 60. We can't move forward until we have an environmental document approved and those type things. This is the process that we're going through.
Yes, we're stuck now.
Okay, my question would be, so we have our monthly meetings, and the director said we would have a representative, okay. Are you going to collect that information at that time and compile it for the quarterly meetings that you have? Or what happens to what we do in those, what happens to the data that we collect or the decisions that we make at the working group level?
Well, we certainly will have a full real-time record meeting notes available in pretty short order over the next few days, after the event. So that will always be part of every community event that I believe is true. Any other record keeping or?
What I'm saying is, like tonight you had a software program that everybody's stuff went in. Okay, so if the one group meets every 2 months, we meet once a month. All that information, are we going to be available to have somebody there that we can use that software for these working groups no matter when we meet, so that we don't have to try to take notes and then make sure you get transcribed into your system later, so that, you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So you like the efficiency of the process with the brainstorming. That will always be available as well, notes, meeting notes, so yeah, we'll help with that process.
Actually, the others online too, for all of you, keep them online.
Yes, so anything that we do will be at tampabaynext.com. That's your repository of all of the meeting notes from all the meetings, not just what we do in this community group.
Just one last question. Are all of the results, not just the top three, going to be on Tampa Bay Next?
Absolutely, Charlotte. Everything that was generated this evening will be in those real-time records. All right, very good. Any closing comments before we send you on your way? We definitely want to encourage you to go to tampabaynext.com to find your meeting notes. And I'll come to you first and then, okay.
What is going to be the purpose of the next meeting in Tampa, so East Tampa, I think on August? And then I have a follow-up as, we participated in the last time when it was TDX, and this is the exact same mapping and everything, so it doesn't seem like anything has changed. So, people in FDOT has changed, but the plan is still the same, so it doesn't seem very, we listen as your slogan. It's a good marketing, but not believable.
Well, the main thing that's changed, as I said before, this is not a project. We haven't presented any plans, any projects to you. What we're presenting here is basically it's you. You're presenting to us. You're telling us, you're giving us your information, your feedback. So all of this data, we're going to take back, we're going to look at, we're going to provide this information back to the MPO, we're going to provide it back to our agency partners, and collectively we're going to decide how we want to move forward with this information. So I think a lot has changed. I think a lot about the conversation has changed. I think the opportunity for input and feedback from the community has changed. So if there's things that you're interested in, that you want us to know, tell us. We've got comments, we've got feedback forms. We're asking you to give us your feedback. I think that is the biggest change. And aside from that, and the biggest change of all is everything's on the table. Everything's on the table. So all these conversations are open for discussion. Trains, let's talk about it. How do we do that? How do we incorporate that? Is that going to help us solve our problem? Is sidewalks, more accessibility, is that going to help us solve our problem? Let's have that conversation. Where are those needs at? And if it's not the DOT that needs to provide that, who needs to provide that? And so this is what the conversation is about. And so I hope that, for the vast majority of us, people recognize that this is a lot different conversation than last year when it was a set of plans on the wall, and we asked you, what do you think?
And then how do you get feedback from
We have a website. You're welcome. You can call us. We'll come to you. Any way that, you tell us, and that's what I believe Andrew asked, is you tell us how you want us to communicate to you. And that's what we're going to do.
And we have 1 minute remaining before that 7:30 hour. One more.
Yeah, I just have one question in light of a follow-up on your comments. So you're probably aware that the Times reported last week, I think it was, or the week before, that the Howard Franklin's going to be rebuilt. Like there's already a plan to rebuild the Howard Franklin, the Gateway Express thing. They have the whole list of improvements. So if it's all under discussion, how are these projects going forward at the same time that everything's under discussion in terms of like express lanes, what projects are being done, how they're going to be integrated? Like that, I think that's where some of the problem comes. You have mixed messages coming out from the Times, DOT through the Times, DOT directly. You have all these different messages coming out with different facts, different statements, and I think you can take this opportunity right now. I'd really appreciate it if you explain what actually is going on.
So let's talk about, there's several things that you described. There are things that the department has to do. We don't have a choice. The Howard Franklin Bridge is a good example. Howard Franklin Bridge has reached its useful life and it has to be replaced. We had a public, we are having a public hearing on the Howard Franklin Bridge. We will be presenting that concept, I believe, is it February? November. So we'll have that concept of express lanes on the Howard Franklin Gateway was already underway. We had that, we had that underway 3-4 years ago. So, but what we're looking at now, and as part of this discussion, is the interchange of West Shore eastward. And what we've heard from the community is they don't want express lanes coming through the downtown area. We're hearing different things in the West Shore area. We heard different things in Pinellas County. We did public hearings in Pinellas County on the gateway. We didn't receive opposition as to what those concepts were. So what caused this discussion and what's caused us to reset this project is the conversation that is generated on the Hillsborough side. The Hillsborough side says, we don't want express lanes. We don't want interstate widening. We don't want these things. So our conversation now is, well, what do we want to do then?
But my thing is, so if you do, I'm not saying don't do gateway, but I'm saying if you do gateway now, if you hire Franklin a specific way, that necessarily affects this conversation. So we're having everything morphing while we're actually trying to talk.
No, so each one of those have independent, what we refer to as independent utility. They can operate the express lanes don't have to continue beyond, you would probably have to bleed them through the West Shore interchange area. And that's one of the concepts that we're looking at. So we're looking at, if we were to end express lanes coming off the Howard Franklin Bridge, how would we do that? All right, so we're looking at that concept.
Because we're actually after 7:30, I just wanted to.
I was gonna ask just like an ending question, so go ahead.
You said that Hillsborough didn't want TDS, but the commission voted TDS.
Well, they voted for $300 million, among other things.
So there's a lot of things going on here, and so what they approved was continuing the tip process. But remember, there's a lot of stipulations that were attached to that. It wasn't just go forth and do what you were going to do. It was, we want you to continue this conversation. We presented at the last tip hearing. Before that, we presented TB Next as our way of moving forward with a program that we're doing here, the conversation, getting community feedback, moving forward. And what the MPO recognizes is something has to be done. Congestion is not going away. I mean, we can hope and sit back and say, well, if we do nothing, people will find a different way to grow. But I'm telling you, and we've got folks from the MPO in the county here that'll tell you, the local system can't take the additional traffic if it's not on the interstate. So where is it going to go? How do we collectively decide how we want to distribute congestion in this region? If not on the interstate, where? Where does it go? I mean, if we are a growing community. We're not getting smaller. We're growing by the day, 3% per year, and probably even larger in the outer years. I don't know, what is the 2040 projection?
Yeah, about 1.8 million people.
So where are those people going to go? How are they going to get around? Doing nothing can't be an option. We've got to find solutions. And maybe there's solutions in technology, maybe there's solutions in transit, maybe there's solutions in doing something with our infrastructure. I believe it's all of that. It's going to have to take a little bit of everything to solve this problem. And we may still not be able to solve it because the problem is just that large. And a lot of people keep forgetting that. This is not, I don't know how long you've been there. I've been here for 35 years. And I can tell you where I live, I used to be by myself. There was nothing around me. Now I'm surrounded by various communities, and it used to take me 10 minutes to get to work. It takes me half an hour to get to work. I mean, we're all dealing with these things. And so the question is, how long do we want to keep dealing with them? And do we want to do something about it, or do we not want to do something about it?
And another way to think about it is the population of Miami-Dade right now is where we're going to be in 20 years.
And they haven't solved
and
the problems.
Miami-Dade has rail, they have express lanes.
Oh, that's not true, because I go down there all the time, and when you take I-95 heading south, they have speed lanes, that traffic moves.
They have the speed.
You go north, it moves. It's not like here. I mean, here, you sit on that bridge, 45 minutes to an hour on a Sunday afternoon. It's insane.
Well, we want to honor your time. Did you want to say one more?
I was thinking is, I arrived later, so I apologize if it was covered, but just as a reminder to people in the room, like what happens next? So you've heard the question already from a lot of people going, what does this mean? And even kind of echoing, I'm not sure what this even contains. So if you could just at a high level, as people leave, flow through like, well, what they're gonna expect next. Sure, there's these community working groups. It comes back around to like, what are you gonna do with this information and effort they're putting out? Or to his very valid point, how could it be that this is like what's happening for 2 years, meanwhile there's these other projects moving forward? So I just wanted at a high level, like people could explain the process to the community.
Well, we're gonna keep having these conversations as we've heard from the community. They want to keep having these conversations. We will be holding a series of workshops exploring different alternatives, giving the public an opportunity to respond back to these alternatives. And hopefully from these workshops and these discussions, we're gonna be able to build some projects. So out of all these discussions, the plan is we're gonna come up with something. There's gonna be something tangible, and there's gonna be other parts to this. The regional transit study that's ongoing will be part of this discussion. So ultimately, at some point, we're gonna have a plan, and we're gonna have a plan that we can move forward with. Now. So we talked about the SCIS process being complete sometime around the spring of 2020, early 2019. So that's when we're looking at having that process complete. Is it gonna be something that everybody's gonna like? Probably not. But again, the question I ask you is, what are the options? I mean, just doing nothing, Michelle, is that an option? Is that what we're gonna say, well, let's come out of this and let's just leave it alone? Well,
you know what I think. I think we should do other things first.
and I don't disagree with you, but what are those things? And do we all agree that do we all agree in that priority order? Because if we're gonna invest money, if we're gonna make a commitment, we all have to collectively have some level of consensus that that's what we want to move forward with. And that's why, what you just described is the importance of why we need to have these discussions.
Are you taking into account, I'm sorry, are you taking into account the sales tax referenda that have failed repeatedly over the years for fixed rail?
Well,
repeatedly?
I tell you what might be a good idea is if we say thank you to all of you who came, and if you have additional questions, you can catch Ed or another member of our team to continue the discussion. But we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much for lending your voice and your time and perspective this evening. Have a good evening.